exciting pay-per-view of the WWE calendar, the Royal Rumble. Who's going to be in the Rumble matches? We'll try to predict them next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. For news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. So, everybody loves to speculate. Everybody loves to predict who is going to be a surprise entrant, who's going to be an NXT call-up to join the Royal Rumble this year. So we have the men's, we have the women's. I know there's going to be a lot of NXT representation this year. Now, I don't know if they'll announce that NXT will be a third brand in it, where they do like 10 from Raw, 10 from SmackDown, 10 from NXT. But I definitely know there's going to be some NXT representation. So we'll start off with that. Do you have anybody specifically in mind who from NXT will be in the Royal Rumble this year?
Yeah, I actually have two. The first one that I think is going to be the main or one of the main entrants is going to be Adam Cole. Reason I say him is because he's had such a strong year in 2018, 2019. Obviously, they've done some high-profile things with him. Probably the most notable was his win over Daniel Bryan.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing. And I think that he's just somebody right now who is kind of at that point where I don't think he's going to get called up because they're doing so much with the Undisputed Era on NXT. But he's certainly somebody that I see in the near future. If they choose to call him up, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
So I think that he's certainly somebody who can be an entrant and will have a good showing.
Now, before you go on to your next person, I do want to ask. Now, obviously, the winner of the Royal Rumble will face a champion of his choosing. So if Adam Cole is still the NXT championship and someone from NXT wins, does that kind of hurt Adam Cole's chances of being in the Royal Rumble if, you know, the winner could face Adam Cole for the NXT championship? Like, what if he wins and he's in it?
Yeah, I don't realistically see him or anybody from NXT, winning the Royal Rumble. Not yet. I think that is as long as NXT is able to, remain as popular as it is right now, and its brand, like the brand of NXT, continues to grow, then I think at some point in the future we could actually see that. I think it's more likely we would see somebody from NXT win the Women's Royal Rumble before we see somebody win the Men's Royal Rumble.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's someone who I think is going to be a surprise entrant and actually win this thing.
Okay.
The Women's Royal Rumble, if not the surprise I think everybody wants to speculate in the Women's Royal Rumble, it's going to be this person, and that's Shayna Baszler.
Okay.
Shayna Baszler was in the main event of Survivor Series with Bayley and Becky Lynch. The storyline that was kind of planted was more about her and Becky Lynch than it was her and Bayley, or Bayley and Becky Lynch, or whatever the case may be. Everybody still has this notion in their mind of the 4 horsemen versus 4 horsewomen coming to effect.
Yep.
Now, I wouldn't do that at WrestleMania. You can do that at Survivor Series, but the seeds have to be planted at Royal Rumble, have a match at WrestleMania, maybe something else at SummerSlam, and then it culminates with the 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen at Survivor Series.
Yep.
It starts at the Royal Rumble with Shayna Baszler being a surprise entrant and winning the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that would probably be something that is more likely to happen. I don't think we're going to see one of the men entering the Men's Royal Rumble, going on, winning the Royal Rumble, and main eventing WrestleMania. I just don't see that happening, not yet, because I don't think anybody is to the point where they're recognizable enough to the masses. Like maybe to the fan base that watches both NXT and the main card and the main cards, Raw and SmackDown. But WrestleMania, when you're trying to sell out 80,000+ fan base to that amount, you really have to have a strong draw power. And I don't think a guy like Adam Cole, not yet at least. Can he get to that point? Yeah, I think he can, but I don't think he's ready for something like that just yet.
Maybe not Adam Cole, but there could be someone down there that might have that draw power.
Okay.
And I think it's someone that you want to predict. If it is someone that could win the Men's Royal Rumble, and I think had a really good showing at Survivor Series, it's that guy.
Yep.
So do you see that prediction that I'm kind of hinting for you, because you were the one that told me you're going to predict them, so I'll let you reveal it, as winning the Royal Rumble this year?
Yeah, and again, I don't see him at that point yet, but if there's anybody who could shock the world and end up winning from NXT, I think it is Keith Lee. There's a few reasons I say that. I do think he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. I do think he's going to look very strong. I think they're going to build off what they did prior with him and Roman Reigns. Now, I actually think Keith Lee's going to have such a strong showing that he ends up being one of the final 3 or 4 individuals in this, alongside Roman Reigns, so they continue to build that story, plant the seeds for that. Keith Lee is a guy that when you put him in the ring alongside some of the other top guys from SmackDown and or Raw, the size difference isn't as noticeable. I mean, if you put Brock Lesnar next to Adam Cole, a lot of people already comment on his size. Skill set aside, I mean, he's pretty small.
Right.
Now, Keith Lee is a bigger guy. Even though he's athletic, he's a guy that's very recognizable right now. They've been booking him very strongly, both on NXT and when he has been taken to the main card, like we've seen previously in Survivor Series. So if there's anybody that's going to do it, it'd be him. And I do think he's going to be booked very strong in this year's Royal Rumble.
Now, one guy that I think could be booked very strongly from NXT, and it's someone that has been with Keith Lee for a while, and they could plant seeds for a feud at WrestleMania if they decide to go this route. And I think they kind of planted it on the WWE Network with, what was it, Chronicles?
Yeah.
Whatever show it was there. That's Matt Riddle.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt Riddle will be in the Royal Rumble. And not only that, I think Goldberg could be in the Royal Rumble, and they will plant the seed for a potential Royal Rumble WrestleMania match between Matt Riddle and Goldberg.
Yep.
I know that there's this animosity between the two, but that hasn't helped. That doesn't stop feuds before. Heck, we're seeing it in AEW between Kip Sabian and Joey Janela. Mm-hmm. We've seen it with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Why not have this one-off match between Matt Riddle and Goldberg, and then with Matt Riddle winning at WrestleMania, shoot him to the moon?
Yeah.
And then he could go on to face Brock Lesnar the following year and retire him like he wants to.
Yep.
I think that works too. Another guy that could be represented big if they decide to bring some UK guys is Walter, the United Kingdom champion. And if you're bringing Keith Lee into this, bring Walter in, showcase those two, have a stare down. The ones that follow everything WWE, including NXT UK, including NXT, will go nuts for this. Mm-hmm. And just let them beat the crap out of each other for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Let Walter just chop everybody and get those chops echoing through Minute Maid Park. Mm-hmm. He's got to be in this.
Yeah, and since we're talking about feuds right now that the fans have been clamoring for or wanting to see actually come to fruition in a match, I'm going to talk about the next 2 individuals that I think could possibly be entrants in this year's Royal Rumble. That is Sting and Undertaker. Okay,
really?
Now both of these individuals, let's start with this. The fans have been clamoring for this match to happen for years.
Yep.
It never happened. It's been something that people have wanted to see happen on the big stage at WrestleMania since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sting obviously getting hurt, and Undertaker being older, those things have placed road bumps in the way, along with issues with contracts and stuff like that in years prior. Sting has recently said that he's willing to get into shape to have a match against Undertaker. Now, Undertaker, we know he had that match against Goldberg that was, not really well received. It wasn't the best match in the world. So if we're ever going to see anything between these two, I think the Royal Rumble is probably the best place to do it. And the reason I say that is this. What fans want to see is those two face off in the middle of a ring on a high-profile pay-per-view like the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. Now, I don't think they're at the point in their careers where we can have them go out there and expect them to have a great match, just the two of them, like at WrestleMania.
Right.
So I think if they do it at the Royal Rumble, they can have their face-off. They can go at each other for a couple of minutes. Someone else can come in, break it up, and then that can be it. But at least we get that epic moment where there's the face-off between Sting and The Undertaker. You can still protect them because they're not going to be expected to carry a full match. And I think at this point, that'd be a lot to ask of both of them.
Right.
So if it's ever going to happen, I'm predicting it does happen here at the Royal Rumble, or we're just never going to see it.
So are you saying this will be what we like the only time we see Taker and Sting in the ring together?
Yes.
So there won't be a match afterwards.
No, there will be no match afterwards. This is what the fans, if they just get, and what I would want to see is just a face off and have them be physical with each other. I mean, just to see that iconic moment where you have these two icons of the wrestling industry facing off in the middle of a ring at a big pay-per-view like Royal Rumble, I would be satisfied at this point, because I mean, I think if they were to have a singles match at WrestleMania now, it would be more of a disservice to the fans, because I just don't think they can perform to the level that we'd want to see them perform at.
True.
So if they were in this type of match, they'd be able to protect both of them. We'd get the epic stare down. We'd get them be physical with one another. And I think fans would be okay and happy with that. I know I would be. Some people may not agree. But
I think the only thing that could be a problem is, if you're going to have both of them in the match, chances are they're both going to be late in the match.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have them later on in the match, that means it's going to be more crowded in the ring. So you may have problems with actually getting things executed.
Yep.
So how can you get them to focus unless prior to that someone cleans house and it's really like some guy hiding under the ring, another two are fighting in the corner, and they just let them go.
Yeah, and there's ways to book around that. I mean, I think if you have Taker come out late, clear the ring except for maybe one guy, and then maybe that one guy and Taker go at it for a little bit, and then Sting comes out and we get the face-off.
Yeah.
That would leave the fans happy enough to the point where, okay, we finally got the face-off. I mean, because we really haven't even seen so much as a face-off between these two. So I just don't want to see it where fans are, if they put them in a match together at some point, fans are going to expect this epic match, and I just don't see it delivering. So to me, put them in the Royal Rumble, have them face off, let them do their thing, and that can be the epic moment.
Right. Now, one thing to their advantage, with The Undertaker at least, is that it's in Houston.
Yep.
And Taker being from Texas, very low travel, minimal travel, so he can just, drive if he wants to Minute Maid Park and do his thing, and that's it. I don't know where Sting lives right now. I don't think it's Texas, but I'm sure they could get around his travel issues if there are any. But the fact that it's in Houston makes me think that if they're going to bring any legends into this Royal Rumble, it's going to be one of two. One is Booker T. And the reason I say that is because of the tease that we got at TLC at the pre-show with the Revival wanting to face Harlem Heat in a tag team match. Yeah. I don't think we'll get that, but I do assume that both members of the Revival will be in the Royal Rumble match because they like to put tag teams in to fill out the 30. So they'll be in. Booker T comes out, faces off with them, and possibly even eliminates both members of the Revival. Mm-hmm. The other guy that I think it could be is Shawn Michaels. Now, Shawn Michaels now being involved with NXT, working with WWE, it makes sense. He's probably going to be there over the weekend anyway.
Yeah.
So why not have that huge hometown pop for him? And it's not like this guy, it's like a long-awaited return out of retirement because he's wrestled since, saying that he retired. So it's not like he's in bad shape either. If someone goes out there and eliminates Shawn Michaels, think about the huge push they could get from that and say, hey, I eliminated Shawn Michaels, the first guy to win the Royal Rumble back-to-back years after Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So, and the first guy to go from number one all the way. Yep. What if they even put Shawn Michaels at number one?
Well,
just to start it off.
Sure. And to also kind of piggyback off that, we talked about The Undertaker. We know there's a history there. Imagine if they got to, because that's really where that whole feud kind of started a little bit, was the Royal Rumble. So they would get to face off, do their thing. And imagine, we've seen what it's done for the career of Brock Lesnar, for Paul Heyman to go out there and say, he's the one that broke the streak and all of that. Imagine, to your point, if a guy like Drew McIntyre were to eliminate Shawn Michaels and he could say that week after week after week, mm-hmm. I was the man that, eliminated Shawn Michaels in the Royal Rumble, especially because he's a guy that supposedly is going to get pushed. They talk about it all the time. Right. We'll see. But yeah, I think that could be something that we see as well.
Is there anybody else that we're missing here? Oh, the two that I think everybody speculates and wants to happen because, every time they're mentioned, it breaks the internet. This is definitely happening.
Not falling for it this year.
It's CM Punk and Edge this year.
Yeah.
So you're saying no on both.
No. And the reason I'm going to say no on both is because every year there are a few names that float around that people get all excited for, right? And whether it's number 27 or whether it's number 30, fans are disappointed because those people don't come out, and then they're like, the Rumble sucks. And it's like, no, you're getting your hopes up for no reason.
Like last year, it was Kenny Omega was coming out as number 30. It's like, dude, his contract was still in effect for another 3 days.
Or Cody Rhodes. I mean, that was another name that got thrown around, and people get all pissed off.
I fell for that one.
No, not me. And I'm not falling for it this year. No, I don't think we're going to see CM Punk. No, I don't think we're going to see Edge. If it happens, I'll be pleasantly surprised because I'm not going to buy into it this year. I just realistically don't see it happening.
I definitely do not see Edge coming back. This is a guy who retired because he's one bad bump away from being paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're saying, oh, he went to doctors and could be medically cleared and all these reports. He gave a spare to Elias. He's coming back. It's like, he gave a spare probably with the risk of that going bad and paralyzing himself. So I don't see it happening, especially with a Royal Rumble where, you're getting thrown off the top rope and there's been some very bad eliminations. Look at Takamichi Noku at the 2000 Royal Rumble. He wasn't even in the match and he took that face plant.
Yeah.
Imagine if that's Edge, who has had a history of neck injuries. You don't want that happening.
Yep.
Even a trained professional like him, it can still happen. CM Punk, on the other hand, I could see it happening. I could see it happening. I'm not going to say it is happening. I could see it happening because of all the stuff with Seth Rollins and, everybody now, it's getting to a point where it's like, can we just stop the CM Punk talk? And that all means that he's going to turn it around and say, hey, just when you thought I wasn't coming back, I'm coming back.
Yep.
So, and every year it seems like people get their hopes up on that one guy and it always falls short. Maybe this is the year they finally.
Daniel Bryan did say he still wanted that one match against CM Punk and we didn't get it. So
I know.
I don't know.
And that was the reason why CM Punk left.
Yeah. And then, so last but not least, entrant that I know her name's going to get thrown around quite a bit, and I do think we're going to see her, is Ronda Rousey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she will be an entrant in the Women's Royal Rumble. I think she'd be a favorite to win it, if not Shayna Baszler. Obviously leaving all of the rumors where she wanted to start a family, but she's also said that her time in WWE isn't done. So maybe this is it. Maybe she comes back for the Rumble. Maybe she works WrestleMania against Becky Lynch in a one-on-one match. I don't know. But I do think we see her.
Yeah, I definitely think the winner this year of the Women's Royal Rumble is going to be someone they're going to keep under wraps. It's not going to be someone they announce ahead of time.
Yep.
And I say it's either going to be Baszler or Ronda to face Becky at WrestleMania because it really should have been a one-on-one match last year. I know the plan initially was Ronda versus Charlotte, and Becky just had such a huge boom, they had to put her in. It was basically the women's Daniel Bryan effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this year they finally get that one-on-one match that they should have gotten. Whether it's Baszler or Ronda is to be determined. But
do you see anybody that the fans are going to get behind in the upcoming weeks leading into the Royal Rumble that will have that Daniel Bryan effect where if that person does not win, it will be an unexpected push and they'll be inserted into a main event or to the point where, the fans will crap all over the Rumble if they don't win? I think Rusev can have that depending on how
possible.
He's pushed. Because I think he's going to be crazy over. This storyline aside, which, mind you, as bad as everybody said it wasn't that bad. It got a huge bump in ratings. I don't know. He's over. I don't know if he's Daniel Bryan over, but he's somebody that, and at least from the men's Royal Rumble, I could see him being the person that people want to see win it, and they'll be very disappointed if he doesn't. I don't know if anybody else is to that point yet.
I think I might jump on that. That's the closest.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's really anybody. Honestly, I think we're at that point now where if Roman Reigns doesn't win this Royal Rumble, I'd be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think the writing's on the wall that Roman's winning, facing the Fiend, and beating the Fiend at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That's what the rumor is. I know there's that story out right now that there's no matches in place for WrestleMania and everything's still up in the air, but I'm pretty sure that one there is probably the only one set in stone, unless you have some kind of Daniel Bryan-esque moment and Rusev gets the push. I don't see that happening. I really don't. As much as I like Rusev and I understand how crazy over he is right now. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't either.
So, I think the only other person that might get a surprise here is Dakota Kai to represent the women in the NXT. They made her the breakout star, the star of the future for NXT at the year-end awards. So I think they use her to further her push, and kind of like what Rhea Ripley, Rhea Ripley really started her big push throughout 2019 at that Royal Rumble. I think she ended up with the most eliminations, if I'm not mistaken, which it wasn't really that much because I think she ended up with 4 or 5, but still the most. So I think maybe Dakota Kai comes in here. Wouldn't be exactly the person you think of for most eliminations, but she could have a good showing at the Royal Rumble. So anybody else we got to add?
No, that's all my picks right now.
All right, that's all my picks too. So let us know if you have any surprises in the comments below. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. And for news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. For Al Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti. Thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psycho Battle.